Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Phoenix, watching the endless darkness of space through the main window. 3 years had passed since humanity first met the aliens. 3 years since Earth learned they were not alone in the galaxy. 3 years since everything changed. The Phoenix was humanity's best ship. It was built for exploration, not war. Jake had commanded her for 2 years now, patrolling the edge of their solar system. The job was simple but important. Watch for alien ships. Report anything unusual. Keep Earth safe. Captain, we have a signal coming in, said Lieutenant Pete Johnson from his station. It's from Earth Command. Jake walked over to the communication panel. Put it through. The screen flickered to life. Admiral Lisa Grant appeared, her face serious. Jake had known Lisa for 10 years. She never looked worried. Today, she looked worried. Jake, we need you back at Earth immediately, Lisa said. The Galactic Council is sending another message. This one is different. Jake felt his stomach tighten. The Galactic Council ruled most of the galaxy. They had 12 different alien species, working together. When humanity first made contact, the Council had seemed friendly enough. They gave Earth something called probationary member status. It sounded good at first, but probationary member status came with rules. Humans could not leave their solar system. They could not build military ships. They could not explore beyond their own planets. The Council said these rules were for everyone's safety. They said humans needed to prove they were peaceful before getting full membership. What kind of message? Jake asked. The kind that changes. Everything, Lisa replied. Get back here fast. The Phoenix turned toward Earth, her engines pushing through space at maximum speed. Jake had a bad feeling about this. The Council's previous messages had always been polite but firm. They reminded humanity of the rules. They talked about patience and understanding. But something in Lisa's voice told him this message was different. 6 hours later, the Phoenix arrived at Earth. Jake took a shuttle down to the Space Defense Force headquarters in Colorado. The building was busy with activity. Officers moved quickly through the halls. Everyone looked tense. Jake found Admiral Grant in the main briefing room. President Sam Carter was there too, along with several other important people. They all looked like they had not slept in days. Jake, good timing, Lisa said. We just finished watching the Council's message. You need to see this. The lights dimmed and a holographic display came to life. An alien appeared on the screen. Jake recognized him immediately. Ambassador Kelthon of the Vextar species. He was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. His eyes were cold and dark. People of Earth, Kelthon began, his voice carrying no warmth. The Galactic Council has completed its review of your probationary status. We have reached a decision. Jake felt the room grow quiet. Everyone was holding their breath. Your species has shown disturbing patterns of behavior, the ambassador continued. Your entertainment media glorifies violence. Your sports celebrate competition and aggression. Your history is filled with wars and conflicts. Most concerning, you continue to develop military technology despite our clear instructions. The alien's 4 arms moved as he spoke, making gestures. That seemed threatening rather than diplomatic. Therefore, the Council has decided that humanity requires immediate intervention. You have 30 standard galactic days to comply with the following demands. First, you will surrender all military technology to Council forces. Second, you will disband your space defense forces immediately. Third, you will accept permanent confinement to your planet Earth. No human will be permitted to leave the surface. Again. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. He looked around the room. Everyone else looked angry too. "These measures are for the safety of the galaxy," Kelthon said. "Your species is too dangerous to be allowed freedom. If you refuse these terms, the Council will implement corrective action. You have been warned." The message ended. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. President Carter was the first to speak. "Well, that's clear enough. They want to make us prisoners on our own planet." "It's worse than that," said Dr. Helen Price, the president's science advisor. "If we give up our technology and space forces, we'll be completely helpless. They could do whatever they want with us." Admiral Grant stood up. "There's something else you all need to know. Our intelligence sources in the outer colonies have picked up Council communications. This isn't just about controlling us. They're planning something bigger." She activated another display. This one showed intercepted alien messages. According to these communications, the Council sees Earth as a valuable resource. Not the planet itself, but the people. They want to use humans as workers for their empire. Apparently, we're good at solving problems and working in dangerous conditions. Jake felt sick. "They want to make us slaves." "That's exactly what they want," Lisa confirmed. "The confinement to Earth is just the first step. Once we're helpless, they'll start taking people. They'll say it's for work programs or cultural exchange. But we'll never see those people again." President Carter walked to the window, looking out at the Colorado mountains. 30 days. They're giving us 30 days to surrender everything that makes us free. "What are our options?" asked General Bob Williams, head of Earth's ground forces. Lisa smiled for the first time since Jake had arrived. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile she got when she was planning something dangerous. "We have one option they don't know about," she said. "Project Wildfire." Jake had heard whispers about Project Wildfire, but nobody talked about it openly. It was classified above his security level. "Wildfire is ready?" President Carter asked. "Almost. We need another week, maybe 2. The question is whether we can keep the Council from finding out what we're doing." "What exactly is Wildfire?" Jake asked. Lisa looked at the president, who nodded. "It's a warship, Jake. A real warship. Not like the Phoenix or our other exploration vessels. This one is built to fight, and it uses technology the Council has never seen before." Jake felt hope for the first time in hours. "How good is it?" "Good enough to make them regret threatening us," Lisa said. "The Council thinks humans are primitive and weak. They're about to learn they made a serious mistake." President Carter turned from the window. "Admiral, begin immediate preparations. If the Council wants to see what humans do when they're cornered, we'll show them. But first, we need to evacuate non-essential personnel from the outer colonies. If this goes bad, I want our people safe." "Yes, sir," Lisa replied. As the meeting broke up, Jake felt a mixture of fear and excitement. The Council had given humanity 30 days to surrender. They thought humans would give up without a fight. They were wrong. The Galactic Council chamber was a massive dome of crystal and metal floating in the heart of Nexus Prime. The space station was bigger than most moons, home to millions of beings from across the galaxy. At its center sat the Council chamber, where the 12 most powerful species made decisions that affected trillions of lives. Ambassador Kelthon of the Vextar walked through the curved hallways leading to the chamber. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he prepared for the meeting. Today would be important. Today the Council would decide the final fate of the humans. The chamber doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, 11 other beings waited at their designated positions. Each species had their own area, designed to accommodate their unique needs. The Shard collective member, Zix-Ara, floated in a containment field that kept her crystalline body stable. The hive queen Veltus of the insectoid swarm clicked her mandibles impatiently from her raised platform. Kelthon took his place at the Vextar station. As the senior member present, he would lead today's discussion. Fellow council members, he began, his voice echoing through the chamber's translation systems. We gather to discuss the human problem. As you know, we delivered our ultimatum 7 days ago. We have 23 days remaining to prepare for their response. Zix-Ara's crystalline form pulsed with different colors as she spoke. Response? What response could they possibly have? They are one primitive species against the combined might of the galaxy. The translation systems converted her harmonic tones into words the others could understand. The humans will comply because they have no choice. Hive Queen Veltas made a series of clicks that sounded like laughter. These mammals think they are warriors because they fight among themselves. They have never faced a real threat. When our ships arrive, they will surrender immediately. From across the chamber, the ethereal collective's representative, Aya Noon, spoke in her soft, musical voice. Perhaps we should consider a gentler approach. The humans have shown remarkable creativity and problem-solving abilities. These qualities could be valuable if properly guided. Kelthon's eyes darkened. Valuable? Ayanun, you have not studied them as I have. Their creativity is the problem. They use it to create new ways of destroying each other. Their problem-solving leads them to build better weapons. He activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images of human history appeared, showing battles and wars throughout the centuries. Look at their record, Kelthon continued. They have been fighting wars for thousands of years. They created weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. Even their entertainment celebrates violence and conflict. The display changed to show human movies and games. Explosions filled the air. Soldiers fired weapons. Starships battled in space. This is what they call fun, Kelthon said with disgust. While other species were learning to live in peace, humans were perfecting the art of warfare. Commander Raxkor of the militant Kresh Empire leaned forward in his seat. His reptilian features showed interest rather than disgust. Their military history is impressive for such a young species. Perhaps that is exactly why they are dangerous. Dangerous? Veltas clicked. They cannot even leave their own star system without our permission. How dangerous can they be? Raxkor's forked tongue flicked out as he spoke. The most dangerous enemies are often the ones you underestimate. The humans have been confined for only 3 years. Before that, they were expanding rapidly through their system. They built space stations, mined asteroids, and established colonies on multiple worlds. That kind of growth takes considerable skill. Zelnoth of the aquatic depth dwellers spoke from his water-filled chamber. Their expansion was crude and inefficient. They use chemical rockets and nuclear power. Primitive technology. Primitive but effective, Raxkor replied. Sometimes simple solutions work better than complex ones. Kelthon waved his arms dismissively. It does not matter how effective their primitive technology might be. We represent 12 advanced civilizations. With tens of thousands of years of development, even if the humans resist, they cannot possibly threaten us. The chamber fell quiet as each member considered this. The Council had ruled the galaxy for millennia. No single species had ever successfully challenged their authority. A few had tried over the centuries, but the Council's combined fleets always restored order quickly. "What about their allies?" asked Nixtar of the Shadow Realm dwellers. "The frontier colonies have grown closer to Earth in recent years." Kelthon smiled coldly. "The frontier worlds are weak and scattered. Most of them are human colonies anyway. They depend on Council trade routes for survival. They will not risk economic disaster to help Earth." Zixara pulsed with agreement. "The frontier species are even more primitive than Earth humans. They have no military worth mentioning. I have prepared a detailed analysis of human capabilities," Kelthon said, activating new displays. "Their largest warship is barely 200 meters long. They have no shields, no energy weapons, and no faster-than-light communication. Their entire space force consists of converted exploration vessels." The displays showed the UES Phoenix and other human ships. To the Council members, they looked laughably small and weak. "Admiral Torkun of the Kresh Empire has volunteered to lead the enforcement action," Kelthon continued. "His third fleet consists of 200 ships, including the dreadnought Dominion's Will. The humans have fewer than 50 vessels total." Veltas clicked with amusement. 200 against 50, and our ships are far more advanced. This will not be a battle. It will be a demonstration." "Exactly," Kelthon agreed. "When the humans see our fleet, they will understand how hopeless resistance would be. Most likely, they will surrender before any fighting begins." Aya Noon's form shimmered with concern. "What if they do resist? What if they refuse to surrender even when facing overwhelming odds?" "Then we will show them the consequences of defying the Council," Kelthon said firmly. "A few destroyed ships and orbital bombardments should convince them to see reason." Raxkor shifted in his seat. "And if bombardments are not enough?" The chamber grew very quiet. Everyone knew what the next step would be. The Council had weapons, capable of cracking planets apart. They had used them before, though not for many centuries. "We hope it will not come to that," Kelthon said carefully. "The humans are valuable as workers. Dead humans serve no purpose. But if necessary," Zixara pulsed, "we will do what must be done to preserve order." The vote was unanimous. The Council authorized Admiral Torkun to proceed with enforcement action. The Third Fleet would depart for human space in 5 days. They would arrive 3 days before the ultimatum expired, giving the humans time to see their hopeless situation and surrender peacefully. As the meeting ended, the Council members departed to their various duties. Most felt confident that the human problem would be resolved quickly and easily. They had handled dozens of similar situations over the millennia. Young species always tested the Council's authority. They always learned to submit eventually. Only Raxkor felt any unease as he left the chamber. Something about the humans bothered him. Their rapid technological development was unusual. Their aggressive nature was concerning. Most troubling of all, they had shown no signs of backing down despite clear warnings. In his experience, species that refused to show fear were often the most dangerous ones to fight. But even Raxkor believed the Council's overwhelming superiority would carry the day. The humans might resist longer than expected, but the outcome was inevitable. No single species could stand against the combined might of the galaxy. Admiral Torkun was already preparing his fleet for departure. Soon, the humans would learn what happened to species that defied the Galactic Council's will. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez walked through corridors that did not exist on any public map. The facility was called Level 7, though most people with security clearance high enough to know about it simply called it the Vault. For 3 years, Amy had lived and worked in these underground halls, leading humanity's most secret project. She paused at a security checkpoint, placing her hand on a scanner. The heavy blast doors opened with a quiet hum. Beyond them lay the largest underground chamber ever built by human hands, and floating in the center of that chamber was humanity's answer to the Galactic Council. The UES retribution was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. She was 300 meters long, built like a knife blade designed to cut through space itself. Her hull was black metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange angles and curves covered her surface, making her look alien despite being entirely human in design. "She's ready," said Dr. Alex Chen, walking up beside Amy. Alex was the youngest person ever to work on a project this classified. At 28, he had already revolutionized human computer technology 3 times over. His latest creation was the most important thing he had ever built. "The AI core?" Amy asked. Alex nodded toward the ship. "Ares is online and learning. All systems are integrated. She's already running combat simulations and improving her own programming." Ares stood for Adaptive Response and Engagement System. It was an artificial intelligence designed specifically for warfare. The Galactic Council had banned AI technology among member species centuries ago, claiming it was too dangerous. They had no idea that humans had been developing it in secret. "How smart is she?" Amy asked. "Smart enough to think faster than any. Organic brain," Alex replied. "In a space battle, reaction time means everything. While alien crews are still processing what they see, Ares will have already fired, moved, and planned the next 3 attacks." They walked toward the ship's boarding ramp. Around them, hundreds of technicians made final preparations. The Retribution had been built using technologies that Earth scientists had developed over the past 3 years. Some of it was based on captured alien technology. Some of it was purely human innovation. All of it was designed with one purpose: to prove that humanity would not go quietly into slavery. "The engines?" Amy asked as they entered the ship. "Nuclear pulse drive," replied Chief Technical Officer Dan Price, joining them at the airlock. Dan had been working on propulsion systems since before first contact. His designs pushed the laws of physics to their absolute limits. "We can accelerate faster than anything the aliens have. Their ships are built for efficiency and long voyages. Ours is built for speed and violence." The 3 of them walked through the ship's corridors. Everything was designed for combat efficiency. No wasted space, no decorative elements. Every wall panel could be removed to access vital systems. Every corridor could be sealed to prevent damage from spreading. "Weapons?" Amy asked. "Railguns," Dan said with a smile. "Magnetic acceleration systems that fire solid projectiles at incredible speeds. The aliens use energy weapons that have to overcome shields and armor. Our rounds go right through both like they aren't even there." They reached the bridge, where Captain Ben Taylor was reviewing system displays with his senior officers. Ben was 45 years old, a veteran of the corporate wars that had raged throughout the solar system before alien contact. He had commanded mining ships, cargo haulers, and security vessels. He understood space combat better than anyone alive. "Captain," Amy said as they approached. Ben looked up from his displays. "Amy, how are we looking?" "All systems are green. She's ready to fly." Ben nodded toward his tactical officer. "Lieutenant Commander Katie Mills has been running combat scenarios with Ares. Katie, show them what you've learned." Katie was 32, with short red hair and intense green eyes. She had served on patrol ships for 8 years before being recruited for this project. Her understanding of space tactics was brilliant, made even better by her partnership with the AI system. The alien ships are larger and more heavily armed than ours, Katie explained, activating a holographic display. But they're also slower and less maneuverable. Their weapons are designed for long-range battles between fleets. Our weapons work best at close range. The display showed a simulation of space combat. Human ships moved like fighters, darting in close to enemy vessels and striking vital systems before pulling away. Hit-and-run tactics, Ben said. We can't stand up to their fleet in a direct battle, but we don't have to. We just have to hurt them badly enough to make them think twice. Major Rick Stone stepped forward from his position near the back of the bridge. Rick commanded the ship's Marine contingent, soldiers trained for boarding actions and ground combat. He was a big man with scars on his hands and a quiet way of speaking that made people listen carefully. What about their Marines? Rick asked. If we board their ships, what should we expect? Most council species aren't warriors, Ben replied. They've been peaceful for so long that they've forgotten how to fight. The Kresh Empire is the exception, but even they rely more on technology than training. Amy looked around the bridge. These people would soon be heading into the most dangerous situation in human history. They would be outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting an enemy that controlled most of the galaxy. But they did not look afraid. They looked eager. There's something else, Alex said quietly. Something I haven't told anyone yet. Everyone turned to look at him. Ares has been analyzing alien communication intercepts. She's found patterns in their technology that suggest a critical weakness. What kind of weakness? Ben asked. Their ships are controlled by centralized computer systems. No AI, just very advanced programs. But because they're centralized, they're vulnerable to certain types of attack. Ares believes she can disrupt their systems using focused electromagnetic pulses. Katie's eyes lit up. Electronic warfare. We could disable their ships without destroying them. Exactly. And disabled ships can't fight back. Amy felt a surge of hope. The Retribution was just one ship against an entire fleet. But she was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. She combined human innovation with desperate necessity. She was built by a species that refused to accept defeat. How long until the Council's fleet arrives? Ben asked. 16 days, Amy replied. Admiral Grant wants us ready to launch in 3 days. That gives us time for final tests and crew training. Ben nodded. Then we'd better get started. Katie, I want continuous combat simulations. Rick, make sure your Marines are ready for anything. Dan, run full diagnostics on all systems. Alex, keep working with Ares. I want to know everything that AI can do. As the meeting broke up, Amy remained on the bridge for a moment, looking out at the massive underground chamber. The Retribution was humanity's greatest achievement and their most desperate gamble. She was proof that humans could build something the galaxy had never seen before. The Galactic Council thought they were dealing with primitive savages. They thought humans would surrender when faced with superior numbers. They had no idea that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their tactics. It was their refusal to give up. Tomorrow, the Retribution would begin her tests. In 3 days, she would launch. And somewhere out in space, an alien fleet was coming to Earth, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They were about to learn that overwhelming superiority meant nothing when facing an enemy with nothing left to lose. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Phoenix, watching his tactical display with growing concern. 3 days had passed since the Council's deadline expired. For 3 days, space around Earth had been quiet. Too quiet. Contact, called out Lieutenant Pete Johnson from his sensor station. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Jake felt his heart rate increase. How many? Still counting, sir. At least 50 so far. Wait, more appearing. 70. 100. Sir, I'm reading over 200 ships. The main screen flickered to life, showing distant points of light against the stars. As Jake watched, more lights appeared as alien ships continued to arrive. The Council's third enforcement fleet had come to collect humanity's surrender. Communication from Admiral Grant, Pete reported. All patrol vessels are ordered to form up at Rally Point Delta. We're to observe and report only. No engagement, unless fired upon. Jake nodded, though every instinct told him to run. The Phoenix was an exploration vessel with light defensive weapons. She was never meant to face a military fleet. None of Earth's ships were. Set course for Rally Point Delta, Jake ordered, and send a message to all human vessels. Stay together and be ready for anything. The Phoenix moved toward the meeting point, where other human ships were gathering. Jake counted 15 vessels total. Exploration ships, cargo haulers, mining, barges, and 3 small patrol craft. Against more than 200 alien warships, they looked pathetically small. On the alien flagship Dominion's Will, Admiral Torkun watched the human ships with amusement. The dreadnought was over 1 kilometer long, larger than most human buildings. Her weapons could destroy a small moon. Her shields could stop anything the humans might fire at her. "Look at them," Torkun said to his second-in-command. 15 ships against 200. They must know how hopeless this is. Commander Velkus checked his displays. The largest human vessel is barely 200 meters long. Our smallest escort ship is 3 times that size. Have they responded to our arrival? Torkun asked. No, sir. They're maintaining position at the edge of their patrol zone. Torkun studied the tactical display. The human ships were arranged in a loose formation, as if they thought their numbers meant something. It was almost insulting. Open a communication channel, he ordered. Let's remind them of their situation. The channel activated, broadcasting on all human frequencies. Torkun's image appeared on screens throughout the human fleet. Human vessels, this is Admiral Torkun of the Galactic Council 3rd Enforcement Fleet. Your deadline for compliance has passed. You will immediately stand down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force. On the Phoenix, Jake watched the alien admiral with disgust. Torkun was a member of the Kresh Empire, one of the Council's most militaristic species. His reptilian features showed no emotion, but his tone made his arrogance clear. Should we respond? Pete asked. Jake thought for a moment. Admiral Grant had given clear orders. Observe and report only, but someone needed to answer the alien's demand. Open a channel, Jake said. The communication system activated. Jake looked directly into the camera, knowing that his words would be heard throughout both fleets. Admiral Torkun, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Space Force. I have a message for you from the people of Earth. We reject your ultimatum. We will not surrender our freedom. We will not become your slaves. Leave our system immediately or face the consequences. Silence followed Jake's words. On both sides, crews waited to see what would happen next. Torkun's expression did not change, but Jake could see anger in the alien's eyes. Captain Morrison, you are either very brave or very foolish. Perhaps both. You have 15 ships. I have 200. Your largest weapon could not scratch my ship's shields. What consequences could you possibly threaten me with? Jake smiled grimly. You'll find out soon enough. The communication ended. Jake immediately sent a coded message to Admiral Grant on Earth. The message was simple. First contact complete. Council fleet is hostile. Proceeding as planned. Torkun turned to his tactical officer. Target their largest ship. Prepare to fire a warning shot across their bow. Perhaps that will help them understand reality. Sir, Velkus interrupted. Long-range sensors are detecting something unusual. There's a large installation in the asteroid belt. It appears to be a mining station. Torkun studied the new contact. Mining Station Alpha 7 was located on a large asteroid, home to 300 human civilians. It was perfect for what he had in mind. Change targets, Torkun ordered. Lock weapons on the mining station. Sir? Velkus seemed confused. The humans need a demonstration of what happens to those who defy the Council. Destroying an empty mining station would be meaningless, but destroying one with people inside will show them the price of resistance. Velkus hesitated. Admiral, there are civilians on that station, families with children. Then they should have thought of that before their leaders chose defiance. The Dominion's will turned toward the asteroid belt, her massive weapons charging with deadly energy. The rest of the Council fleet followed, moving like predators closing in on prey. Jake watched the alien fleet's movement with growing horror. They're targeting the mining station. We have to do something. Sir, our orders were to observe only, Pete reminded him. Jake looked at his crew. These were good people who had signed up to explore space and protect Earth. None of them had ever been in a real battle. But sometimes doing the right thing mattered more than following orders. All ships, this is Morrison. The aliens are targeting Mining Station Alpha 7. There are 300 civilians on that station. We can't let this happen. Jake, this is Captain Nina Torres on the cargo hauler Freedom. My ship isn't armed for combat. Neither is mine, Jake replied. But we're all they have. Form up on me. We're going in. The small human fleet accelerated toward the asteroid belt, their engines straining to reach maximum speed. They were hopelessly outmatched, but they were not going to watch civilians die without a fight. Torkun watched the human ships approaching and felt a mixture of surprise and contempt. They're actually going to try to stop us. How touching. Orders, sir, Velkus asked. Continue targeting the mining station. When the human ships get close enough, destroy them too. Let this be a lesson to anyone who thinks they can challenge the Council's authority. The battle began when the Dominion's will fired her main weapons at Mining Station Alpha 7. Beams of energy crossed space at the speed of light, striking the asteroid with devastating force. The mining station's shields flared and failed within seconds. Emergency alarms screamed across human communication channels. All personnel evacuate immediately, came the desperate voice from the station. Hull breaches on levels 3 and 5, life support failing. Jake pushed the Phoenix harder, knowing they would never reach the station in time, but he had to try. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Missiles and energy beams reached out toward the alien ships, striking shields that barely noticed the impacts. It was like throwing stones at a mountain, but the humans kept fighting. Captain Torres used her cargo hauler to ram an alien escort ship, her vessel exploding in a ball of fire that damaged the enemy's engines. Captain Bill Wright sacrificed his mining barge to give the others time to reach the station. For 20 minutes, the small human fleet fought desperately against impossible odds. They saved 60 people from the mining station before the asteroid finally broke apart. But the cost was terrible. 12 human ships were destroyed. Only 3 survived, badly damaged and barely able to fly. Jake limped the Phoenix back toward Earth, his ship trailing atmosphere from hull breaches. Around him, his crew worked frantically to keep life support running. "Casualties?" he asked. "We lost the Morrison, the Eagle, and the Defiant," Pete reported, his voice hollow. "Total dead. 418 people." Jake closed his eyes. 418 people dead, including the civilians they had failed to save. The aliens had made their point brutally clear. But as the Phoenix struggled home, Jake felt something growing inside him that was more dangerous than any weapon. It was rage. Pure, cold, human rage. The aliens thought they had won a victory. They thought they had shown humanity the futility of resistance. Instead, they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. They had given humanity a reason to fight with everything they had. The news of Mining Station Alpha 7 spread across Earth like wildfire. Video footage from the battle showed alien ships deliberately targeting civilians. Images of the destroyed station and the burning hulks of human vessels filled every screen. On the planet, the death toll reached 718 people, including 43 children. Captain Ben Taylor stood in the underground hangar, watching his crew make final preparations aboard the UES Retribution. The ship's black hull seemed to absorb the light around it, making her look like a hole in space itself. She was humanity's answer to the aliens who thought they could murder innocents without consequence. "Captain," called Lieutenant Commander Katie Mills from the boarding ramp. "All systems are ready. Aries is online and eager to begin." Ben nodded and walked up the ramp into his ship. The Retribution was nothing like the peaceful exploration vessels that had just been destroyed. Every surface was designed for war. Every system was built to kill alien ships as efficiently as possible. On the bridge, the artificial intelligence known as Ares spoke through the ship's communication system. Her voice was female, calm, and completely without emotion. "Captain Taylor, I have analyzed the battle data from Mining Station Alpha 7. The alien fleet is overconfident and poorly positioned. They believe they have already won." Ben settled into the captain's chair. Around him, his crew took their positions. These were the best people Earth had to offer. They had trained for 3 years on simulators and mock battles. Now they would find out if all that preparation was enough. "What do you recommend, Ares?" Ben asked. "Hit-and-run tactics against isolated targets. The aliens are spread throughout the system, believing themselves safe from retaliation. We can use this against them." Major Rick Stone stepped onto the bridge, his Marines following behind. They wore black armor that matched the ship's hull, designed for boarding actions in zero gravity. Rick's face showed the same cold anger that everyone felt since the massacre. "Rules of engagement?" Rick asked. Ben looked at his tactical display, showing the positions of alien ships throughout the solar system. They had scattered into small groups, confident that no human force could threaten them. "No mercy," Ben said quietly. "They killed civilians. They killed children. We're going to show them what happens when you declare war on humanity." The Retribution launched from her underground hangar, rising through hidden passages in the mountain. When she emerged into open air, her stealth systems activated, making her nearly invisible to sensors. She was a ghost ship, unseen and unstoppable. "First target?" Katie asked, studying the tactical display. Ares highlighted a group of 3 alien ships near Jupiter. Council escort vessels conducting what they call security sweeps. They are isolated from the main fleet and vulnerable to attack. "Set course," Ben ordered. "Maximum stealth. Let's introduce ourselves properly." The Retribution accelerated toward Jupiter, her nuclear pulse drive pushing her faster than any ship the aliens had ever seen. The journey that would take a normal vessel 6 hours was completed in 2. Human engineering had achieved something the galaxy thought impossible. The 3 alien ships were cruising slowly near Jupiter's moons, scanning for human resistance that they never expected to find. The crews were relaxed, confident in their superiority. Most of them had never been in a real battle. "Targets acquired," Katie reported. "Enemy ships are the escort cruisers Harmony, Justice, and Order. Council naming conventions are predictable." "Ironic names," Ben said grimly. "Let's show them what real justice looks like. Ares, begin attack run." The Retribution dropped her stealth systems and appeared on alien sensors like a nightmare materializing from empty space. Before the enemy crews could react, she was already firing. The railgun arrays sent solid projectiles screaming through space at incredible speeds. The aliens' energy shields, designed to stop laser weapons and plasma bolts, offered no protection against kinetic rounds traveling at significant fractions of light speed. The first enemy cruiser, Harmony, simply came apart as railgun rounds tore through her hull. Atmosphere vented into space as the ship broke into burning fragments. Her crew of 400 died in seconds. "Target destroyed," Ares reported with clinical precision. "Engaging second target." The cruiser Justice tried to turn and run, but she was too slow. The Retribution's second salvo punched through her engines and reactor core. The ship exploded in a ball of nuclear fire that lit up Jupiter's night side. The third ship, Order, managed to get her shields up and return fire. Energy beams reached out toward the Retribution, but the human ship was already moving. Her incredible acceleration carried her out of the firing solution before the alien weapons could lock on. "Their targeting systems can't track us," Katie observed with satisfaction. "We're too fast for them." The Retribution came around in a tight turn that would have killed any organic crew not protected by advanced gravity compensators. She fired again, her railguns sending the cruiser Order to join her sister ships in destruction. 3 targets eliminated, Ares announced. Total engagement time, 4 minutes, 37 seconds. No damage to our vessel. Ben felt a savage satisfaction as he watched the debris field that had once been 3 enemy ships. "Send a message on all council frequencies. Tell them that was for the children who died at Alpha 7. The message went out across space, reaching Admiral Torkun on his flagship. The alien commander stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 3 of his ships had been destroyed by a single human vessel that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. "How is this possible?" Torkun demanded. "The humans have no military ships. Their vessels are converted cargo haulers." Commander Velkas checked the sensor data again. "Sir, the attacking ship doesn't match any known human design. It's smaller than our escorts, but incredibly fast. Our ships never had a chance to fight back." Torkun felt something he had not experienced in decades of military service: uncertainty. The humans were supposed to be helpless. They were supposed to surrender after seeing the destruction of the mining station. Instead, they had built a warship that could destroy council vessels with impunity. "Recall all patrol groups," Torkun ordered. "No ship travels alone. And send a message to the council. Tell them we may have underestimated the human threat." But the Retribution was not finished. Over the next 6 hours, she struck 4 more times. A supply convoy near Mars lost all 5 ships in 3 minutes. 2 escort cruisers patrolling the asteroid belt were ambushed and destroyed. A communications relay station was reduced to scrap metal. Each attack followed the same pattern. The human ship would appear without warning, destroy its targets with overwhelming firepower, and disappear before reinforcements could arrive. The aliens began to realize they were not facing a conventional enemy. "Captain," Katie said as they prepared for their sixth attack. "Long-range sensors show the main alien fleet is consolidating near Earth. They're forming a defensive formation." Ben smiled coldly. "Good. Let them huddle together in fear. Ares, what's our ammunition status?" "Railgun rounds at 60%. Capacity. All systems nominal. I am ready to continue the hunt." The retribution had become exactly what Ben intended, a predator stalking alien ships through the darkness of space. Each attack sent a message to the Council fleet. Humanity would not surrender, humanity would not submit, and humanity had weapons the aliens had never imagined. "New target," Ares reported. "Single alien destroyer conducting reconnaissance near Saturn. Designation: Righteous Fury." Another ironic name, Ben observed. "Let's show them what Righteous Fury really looks like." The hunt continued through the night. By dawn on Earth, the Retribution had destroyed 14 alien ships and damaged 6 others. The Council's third enforcement fleet, which had arrived with supreme confidence, was now trying desperately to protect itself from a single human warship. Admiral Torkun sat in his command center, staring at the growing list of losses. In less than 12 hours, he had lost more ships than in his previous 20 years of service. The human vessel seemed to anticipate his moves, striking where he was weakest and vanishing before he could respond. For the first time since arriving, at Earth, Torkun began to wonder if the Council had made a terrible mistake. The humans were not the primitive savages they had expected. They were something far more dangerous. They were prey that had learned to hunt back. News of the human resistance spread across the galaxy faster than Council sensors could suppress it. On 100 worlds, beings who had lived under Council rule for centuries watched footage of alien warships burning in space. For the first time in millennia, someone was fighting back against the galactic government. Admiral Vextor of the Saurax Confederacy sat in his private quarters aboard the battleship Scaled Vengeance, watching the intercepted transmissions with growing interest. The Saurax were an old species, proud warriors who had been forced to submit to Council authority 3,000 years ago. They had never forgotten the taste of independence. "Remarkable," Vextor said to his aide, Captain Hexaran. "The humans have been free for only 3 years, and they've already built a ship that can destroy Council vessels with ease." Hexran studied the tactical data from the battles near Earth. Their weapon systems are crude but effective. Kinetic projectiles instead of energy weapons. It's almost primitive, but it works. "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones," Vextor observed. "The Council has become so focused on advanced technology that they've forgotten basic principles of warfare." The transmission showed the human ship Retribution attacking an alien convoy. The vessel moved like nothing Vextor had ever seen, accelerating and turning with impossible speed. Its weapons fired solid rounds that punched through shields and armor as if they were paper. "Sir," Hexran said carefully, "are you considering what I think you're considering?" Vextor smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "The humans need intelligence about Council fleet movements. We have access to their communication networks. It would be a shame if certain information accidentally fell into human hands." On the Council capital of Nexus Prime, Ambassador Kelthon paced angrily through his private chambers. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. The human resistance was inspiring other species to question Council authority. Several worlds had already begun delaying their tribute payments. Others were asking uncomfortable questions about Council policies. "This is unacceptable," Kelthon said to his communications officer. One primitive species cannot be allowed to destabilize galactic order. The officer, a young Vextar named Polthon, studied the incoming reports. Sir, it's not just the military situation. The humans have broadcast their reasons for fighting across all frequencies. They're claiming the Council planned to enslave their population. Propaganda, Kelthon dismissed. Desperate lies from a dying species. But Polthon had read the intercepted Council communications. He knew the truth about the Council's plans. For humanity, the idea of using humans as forced labor had been discussed in official meetings. The evidence was clear in the classified records. Sir, what if they're telling the truth? Kelthon's 4 eyes focused on his subordinate with dangerous intensity. Are you questioning Council policy? No, sir, Polthon said quickly. I'm simply concerned about public reaction. If other species believe the human claims, then we will deal with them as we're dealing with the humans. The galaxy has been peaceful under Council rule for 3,000 years. We will not allow one species of barbarians to destroy that peace. But even as Kelthon spoke, he could see the reports piling up on his desk. Demonstrations on the frontier worlds, work strikes in the mining systems. Even some Council member species were beginning to ask difficult questions about the war with humanity. On the ethereal collective world of Luminaris, Representative Aya Noon floated in her meditation chamber, her translucent form pulsing with troubled energy. The ethereals were the oldest species in the Council, ancient beings who valued wisdom and peaceful contemplation above all else. The images from Earth disturbed her deeply. She had watched the footage of human children dying. At Mining Station Alpha 7, she had seen the desperate courage of the human fleet trying to save civilian lives, and she had watched the terrible vengeance of the ship called Retribution as it hunted Council vessels through space. Sister Luxara, she called to her aide, bring me the classified files on Council expansion policies. The younger ethereal hesitated. Sister, those files are restricted. I am a Council representative. I have the right to review policies I am asked to vote on. When the files arrived, Aya Noon spent hours reading through decades of secret documents. She found records of forced relocations, slave labor programs, and the systematic suppression of any species that showed signs of independence. The Council, she had served faithfully for centuries, was not the peaceful organization she had believed it to be. The truth was that the Council maintained order through fear and oppression. Species that submitted were allowed to live in comfort. Those that resisted were crushed without mercy. The galaxy was peaceful because no one dared to fight back. Until now. Back in the Sol system, Captain Ben Taylor stood on the bridge of the Retribution, reviewing intelligence reports that had mysteriously appeared in their communication systems. Someone was feeding them detailed information about Council fleet movements and supply routes. This data is incredibly detailed, observed Lieutenant Commander Katie Mills. Whoever is helping us has access to high-level Council communications. Maybe we have friends we don't know about, Ben suggested. Ares, what's your analysis? The artificial intelligence processed the new information with inhuman speed. The intelligence appears genuine. I recommend we use it to plan our next series of attacks. The Council is moving supply convoys to support their fleet. If we can disrupt their logistics, we can force them into an unsustainable position. Major, Rick Stone joined them on the bridge. Captain, I've been monitoring alien communications. They're scared, really scared. They're pulling ships back from patrol duties to protect their supply lines. Ben smiled grimly. The Retribution had been hunting alone for 5 days now, striking targets throughout the solar system. The alien fleet had gone from confident aggression to defensive paranoia. They were no longer trying to conquer Earth. They were trying to survive long enough to complete their mission. New intelligence coming in, Katie reported. A major supply convoy is approaching from the direction of Alpha Centauri. 12 cargo ships with 4 escort cruisers. That's the largest convoy yet, Ben observed. They must be getting desperate for supplies. Ares processed the tactical situation. Recommendation: we intercept the convoy at the edge of the system. If we can destroy their supplies, the alien fleet will be forced to withdraw or face starvation. Do it, Ben ordered. Plot an intercept course. But as the Retribution moved to attack the convoy, other ships were also moving through space. Admiral Vextor had quietly dispatched 3 Sorax vessels to observe the battle. On a dozen frontier worlds, resistance groups monitored human communications and cheered each victory. Even some council species were beginning to root for the humans in secret. The war that had started as a simple enforcement action was becoming something much larger. The humans had shown the galaxy that the Council could be challenged. They had proven that superior numbers and advanced technology meant nothing against determination and courage. Most importantly, they had broadcast a message that reached every oppressed world in the galaxy. Freedom was worth fighting for, no matter the odds. The convoy appeared on sensors as the Retribution approached the system's edge. 12 massive cargo ships filled with supplies for the alien fleet, 4 escort cruisers providing protection. It should have been more than enough to handle any threat the humans could present. But the escort commanders had never faced anything like the Retribution. They were about to learn why the galaxy was beginning to whisper a new name with respect and fear. The ship that hunted in the dark between the stars, crewed by the species that refused to surrender. The galactic political situation changed overnight. On 36 worlds, beings who had never questioned council authority began to organize resistance movements. The footage of the Retribution destroying council ships had spread despite all attempts at censorship. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy had hope. General Maria Santos stood on the observation deck of the frontier colony ship New Horizon, watching her fleet assemble in space. Maria commanded the Frontier Worlds Alliance, a loose collection of independent colonies that had always existed on the edge of council control. When news of Earth's resistance reached the frontier, Maria made a decision that would change everything. "All ships report ready," announced Captain Joe Miller from the bridge. "We have 47 vessels total. Not much compared to a council fleet, but they're crewed by people who believe in what we're doing." Maria nodded as she watched the ships through the viewport. They were a mixed collection of cargo haulers, mining ships, and converted patrol craft. Nothing that looked like a proper warship, but appearances could be deceiving. "How many volunteers from other systems?" Maria asked. "More than we can handle," Joe replied. "Word is spreading that someone is finally standing up to the council. We've got engineers, pilots, and fighters coming from systems we've never even heard of." 3 days earlier, Maria had made her decision. The Frontier Worlds Alliance declared independence from the Galactic Council and began sending supplies to Earth. It was an act of rebellion that would have been unthinkable before the human resistance began. "Message from Admiral Grant on Earth," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. "They're sharing their ship modifications with us, something called Project Wildfire Technology." Maria smiled. The humans were not just fighting for themselves anymore. They were fighting for everyone who wanted to be free. and they were willing to share their weapons technology with anyone brave enough to stand with them. Back in the Sol system, the Retribution was no longer hunting alone. Captain Ben Taylor watched his tactical display as new contacts appeared throughout the system. 3 ships approached from different directions, all broadcasting human identification codes: UES Defiance, UES Freedom, and UES Vengeance requesting permission to join formation, reported Lieutenant Commander Katie Mills. Ben felt a surge of pride as he watched the approaching ships. Like the Retribution, they were built for war. Black hulls, angular designs, and weapon systems that could punch through any alien defense. Earth had been busy while the Council fleet cowered in defensive formations. Permission granted, Ben said. It's time to show these aliens what happens when you threaten humanity. Captain Paul Wright commanded the Defiance, a ship identical to the Retribution in every way except her crew. Paul was younger than Ben, but he had trained on the same simulators and learned the same tactics. His ship carried the same devastating weapons and the same artificial intelligence support. Captain Nina Torres brought the Freedom into formation. Nina had commanded cargo ships before the war, but she had adapted quickly to military command. Her crew was made up of volunteers from the merchant fleet, people who had lost friends and family at mining station Alpha 7. Captain Steve Clark guided the Vengeance alongside her sister ships. Steve had served on patrol vessels before first contact, and he understood space combat better than most. His ship carried a full complement of Marines led by Major Lynn Davis, a woman who had sworn to make the aliens pay for every human life lost. All ships, this is Captain Taylor, Ben broadcast to the small fleet. Ares has identified a major Council supply depot in the asteroid belt. It's heavily defended, but if we can destroy it, we can cripple their ability to maintain their fleet. The odd 4 human warships moved through space like predators, their black hulls nearly invisible against the stars. Each ship carried weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. Each crew was motivated by rage at the massacre of innocents, and each vessel was guided by an artificial intelligence that thought faster than any organic mind. Admiral Torkun watched the human ships approach his supply depot with growing desperation. 2 weeks of fighting had reduced his mighty fleet to less than half its original strength. Ships had been destroyed, damaged, or forced to withdraw for repairs. His crews were exhausted and demoralized. "Sir," reported Commander Velkas, "long range sensors show 4 human vessels approaching Supply Depot 7. The depot's defenses are requesting immediate reinforcement." Torkun studied his tactical display. The supply depot was critical to his fleet's survival. Without it, his ships would run out of food, fuel, and ammunition within days. But sending ships to defend it would weaken his main force even further. "Dispatch the 5th Squadron," he ordered reluctantly. "Tell them to hold the depot at all costs." But the 5th Squadron never had a chance. The 4 human ships struck like lightning, coordinating their attack with inhuman precision. The Retribution and Defiance engaged the defending cruisers while Freedom and Vengeance targeted the supply depot itself. The battle lasted 8 minutes. When it ended, the depot was an expanding cloud of debris, and the 5th Squadron had ceased to exist. The human ships had taken only minor damage, their superior speed and firepower overwhelming the alien defenses. "Depot destroyed," reported Ares, across all 4 ships simultaneously. "Enemy losses, 6 cruisers, 2 destroyers, and all depot facilities. Our losses, negligible damage to hull plating." The destruction of Supply Depot 7 marked a turning point in the war. Without supplies, the Council fleet could not maintain its siege of Earth. Torkun was forced to begin withdrawing ships from the system. consolidating his remaining forces around the heavily defended fleet base near Jupiter, but the humans were not finished. As news of their victories spread, more species began to openly support their cause. The reptilian Sarax Confederacy started, sharing intelligence about Council fleet movements. The aquatic depth dwellers began disrupting Council communications networks. Even some ethereal collective members spoke out against the war. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Kelthon faced a crisis unlike any in Council history. Half the member species were demanding an end to the war with humanity. Others were calling for investigations into Council policies toward non-member species. The carefully maintained unity of the galactic government was cracking. "This is unacceptable," Kelthon raged during an emergency council session. "One primitive species has turned half the galaxy against us. We must take decisive action before this rebellion spreads further." Hive Queen Veltas clicked her mandibles in agreement. "The humans must be crushed completely. No survivors, no martyrs. Wipe them out and make an example of their world." But other council members were less certain. Zixara of the Shard Collective pulsed with uncertainty. "The political situation is becoming unstable. Perhaps we should consider negotiation." Negotiation? Kelthon's four arms gestured wildly. "With terrorists who attack our ships without warning? Never." Ayanoon of the Ethereal Collective spoke softly, her voice carrying across the chamber. "I have reviewed the classified files on our expansion policies. The humans' claims about planned enslavement appear to be accurate." The chamber fell silent. No one had expected a council member to openly question their own government's actions. "Sister Ayanoon," Veltas clicked dangerously, "you are walking close to treason." "I am seeking truth," Ayanoon replied calmly. "If our policies are just, they should withstand scrutiny. If they are not, we must change them." The debate that followed lasted for hours, with council members arguing bitterly about everything from human rights to galactic security. For the first time in 3,000 years, the council could not reach unanimous agreement on a major decision. While the politicians argued, the war continued. Captain Ben Taylor and his growing fleet struck targets throughout the solar system, systematically destroying Council supply lines and isolated ship groups. Each victory encouraged more species to support the human cause. Each defeat weakened the Council's authority across the galaxy. The tide had turned. What began as a simple enforcement action had become a galactic war between freedom and oppression. And for the first time in millennia, freedom was winning. Admiral Torkun sat in his command center, staring at reports that grew worse each day. His fleet was trapped in the Sol system, running low on supplies and facing an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with each battle. He had come to crush a primitive rebellion. Instead, he had awakened something that threatened the entire galactic order. In 3 days, the Council would demand a status report. Torkun had no idea what he was going to tell them. How do you explain that 15 human ships had destroyed the most powerful fleet in the galaxy? How do you report that a single species had inspired half the galaxy to rebellion? Most importantly, how do you ask for reinforcements when you're not sure they would be enough? The crisis came to a head when Ambassador Kelthon made the worst decision in galactic history. Faced with a council that could no longer agree on anything and a galaxy that was rapidly slipping from their control, he chose escalation over wisdom. "Enough," Kelthon declared during what would be the final council session. "If we cannot control the humans through conventional means, we will use unconventional ones. I am authorizing the deployment of planet-killer weapons." The chamber erupted in chaos. Half the council members shouted in protest, while others demanded immediate action. Aya Noon of the Ethereal Collective stood with desperate urgency. "You cannot be serious," she said. "Planet killers have not been used for over 2,000 years. The destruction of an entire world would be genocide." "It would be justice," Kelthon replied coldly. "The humans have chosen to make themselves enemies of galactic peace. They must face the consequences." But several council members refused to support the decision. The vote was 6 in favor, 6 against. Under normal circumstances, this would mean no action could be taken. But Kelthon had prepared for this possibility. In times of galactic crisis, the senior member may override a deadlocked council, he announced. "I invoke emergency powers and authorize the deployment of Planet Killer. Weapons against Earth." 3 hours later, the Council's reserve fleet departed Nexus Prime. 20 massive dreadnoughts, each carrying weapons capable of cracking a planet's surface. Admiral Kexathul of the Vextar commanded the fleet with orders to destroy Earth completely. The news reached Captain Ben Taylor aboard the Retribution through intercepted communications. The human fleet had grown to 12 ships now, reinforced by vessels from Earth and volunteers from the frontier worlds. But 12 ships could not stop 20 dreadnoughts armed with planet-killing weapons. "Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Katie Mills, "Earth Command is ordering all ships to return to home defense positions." Ben stared at the tactical display showing the approaching Council fleet. In 6 days, those ships would reach Earth. In 6 days, they would have enough firepower to turn his home world into a ball of molten rock. "No," Ben said quietly. "Sir?" Katie asked. "I said no. We're not running home to watch Earth die. We're going to stop this fleet before it gets there." Major Rick Stone stepped forward. "Captain, the odds are impossible. 20 dreadnoughts against 12 ships." Ben turned to face his crew. These people had followed him through 2 weeks of desperate fighting. They had proven that humans could stand against the galaxy's most powerful military force. Now he was asking them to do the impossible. "Ares," Ben called. "Analysis of the enemy fleet." The artificial intelligence responded immediately. "The Council dreadnoughts are heavily armed but poorly escorted. They rely on their massive shields and armor for protection. However, I have identified a critical weakness in their design." "What weakness?" "Their planet-killer weapons require enormous amounts of power. To fire them, the ships must lower their defensive shields and divert energy from their engines. For approximately 30 seconds during the charging sequence, they are vulnerable to concentrated attack." Ben felt a spark of hope. "Can we exploit that weakness?" "Affirmative. But success requires perfect timing and complete surprise. We would need to attack the entire fleet simultaneously while their weapons are charging." Lieutenant Commander Mills studied the tactical data. "We'd have to get past their escorts and penetrate their formation. The losses would be catastrophic." "Better to die fighting than to watch Earth burn," Ben replied. "All ships, this is Captain Taylor. We're not going home. We're going to war." The human fleet turned away from Earth and accelerated toward the approaching Council armada. Behind them, Admiral Lisa Grant watched from Earth Command headquarters, knowing she was seeing 12 ships sail toward certain death. But the humans were not alone. As word of the planet-killer fleet spread across the galaxy, something unprecedented happened. Species that had been enemies for millennia put aside their differences to oppose what they saw as an act of ultimate evil. Admiral Vextor of the Saurax Confederacy arrived with 18 ships. Captain Moldar of the Deathworlders brought 12 vessels. Even 3 ships from the Ethereal Collective joined the growing armada. Within hours, the human fleet had become a coalition of over 50 ships from a dozen species. "This is unprecedented," observed Ares as the Allied fleet formed up around the human ships. "Never in recorded galactic history have so many species united for a common cause." Ben watched the alien ships take positions around his own vessels. Many of these species had been enemies of Earth just weeks ago. Now they were risking everything to defend a world they had never seen. "Captain Taylor," came a transmission from Admiral Vextor. "My compliments on your previous battles. The Sauraks are honored to fight alongside warriors of such skill." "The honor is ours, Admiral," Ben replied. "Thank you for coming." The combined fleet intercepted the Council dreadnoughts 2 days out from Earth. Admiral Kexthul watched the approaching ships with contempt, 50 vessels against 20 of the most powerful ships ever built. It would be a massacre. "All ships, prepare planet-killer weapons," Kexthul ordered. "We'll destroy these rebels first, then proceed to Earth." But as the Council dreadnoughts powered up their devastating weapons, something extraordinary happened. Every ship in the Allied fleet attacked simultaneously, coordinated by the artificial intelligence systems aboard the human vessels. The battle that followed became legend throughout the galaxy. Human ships struck like daggers, their railguns, punching through alien armor while Allied vessels provided covering fire. The Sauraks fought with desperate courage, their ships ramming Council vessels when their weapons failed. The deathworlders used swarm tactics, overwhelming individual targets with coordinated attacks. For 30 minutes, space burned with the light of dying ships. The Council dreadnoughts fired their planet killers, but the weapons were designed for stationary targets. Against fast-moving ships guided by artificial intelligence, they were nearly useless. Captain Ben Taylor brought the retribution alongside the Council flagship Absolute Authority, her railguns tearing through the massive ship's hull. Major Rick Stone led boarding parties across the gap between ships, his Marines fighting desperately through alien corridors. "Bridge secured," Rick reported over the communication system. "Admiral Kexthul is dead. The flagship is ours." Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as the Allied fleet systematically destroyed or captured every Council dreadnought. When the battle ended, 19 planet killers were drifting hulks, and the 20th was under human control. The victory came at a terrible cost. Half the Allied fleet had been destroyed, including brave crews from dozens of species who had died to protect a world they barely knew. But Earth was safe, and the Council's ultimate weapon had been defeated. News of the battle reached Nexus Prime within hours. The reaction was swift and decisive. The remaining Council members voted unanimously to remove Kelthon from power and accept human demands for negotiation. But Captain Ben Taylor had a different idea. Standing on the bridge of the captured Council flagship, surrounded by representatives from the Allied fleet, he made a proposal that would reshape the galaxy. "We're not negotiating with the Council," he announced. "We're replacing it." 3 months later, the First Galactic Federation Assembly met on Earth. Representatives from over 300 species gathered in the newly built Unity Hall, where they would create a new form of galactic government based on equality and freedom, rather than domination and fear. Admiral Lisa Grant was elected as the first president of the Galactic Federation. Her first official act was to promote Captain Ben Taylor to Admiral and give him command of the new Federation fleet. The Retribution became the flagship of a navy dedicated to protecting freedom rather than enforcing oppression. Ships from dozens of species flew alongside human vessels, their crews united by the knowledge that they had helped birth a new era in galactic history. Standing on the bridge of his ship as the Federation fleet departed Earth for its first patrol, Admiral Ben, Taylor reflected on how much had changed. 6 months ago, humanity had faced slavery or extinction. Today, they led a galactic alliance dedicated to ensuring that no species would ever face that choice again. Ares, he said to the artificial intelligence that had become his partner in reshaping the galaxy, set course for the frontier worlds. It's time to begin our real mission. Affirmative, Admiral. What is our mission? Ben smiled as he watched the stars through the main viewport, knowing that somewhere out there, species were waiting for freedom to reach them. To make sure this galaxy never forgets what happens when you push humanity too far. The Retribution and her escort ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, carrying the promise of freedom to every corner of the galaxy. Behind them, Earth turned slowly in space, no longer an isolated world on the edge of nowhere, but the beating heart of a new galactic civilization built on the simple idea that all beings deserve to be free.